Hello and welcome to 28 Tips for your first 28 days in Moonstone Island. I'm Copeland Plays. Thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to make this video because we've been playing Moonstone Island on the channel and having a lot of fun with it. Moonstone Island is a deck builder, dungeon crawler, monster collector, life simulator. And with all those mechanics, there's a lot to keep track of. And so in my first month, I came up with 28 tips. That's one tip for every day of your first month to help you be super prepared for Moonstone Island. If you like the video, consider liking. Also subscribe. We're on the road to 100 subs. I really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into it. Tip number 1, always do the tutorial. It's the only way that you can pick your starting spirit, and you get some fiber from the tutorial, allowing you to get your balloon earlier. Tip number 2. When picking your starter, I highly recommend Shmi. Earth types are easily found on the starting island, and capacity signature cards are just really underpowered. Another tutorial tip, don't worry about what spirit you choose because they're all encounterable later. Tip number 4, once you land on night 1, get your warp whistle. There's not much that you can really do on night 1, so getting your warp whistle is super handy. Tip number 5, you can pray to the statue by right-clicking, and on the next day you will get a free item. For me, usually it's a crystal or some seeds. Nevertheless, it's still pretty handy. Tip number 6. On day 1, make sure you go visit Zed and get his quest. This will allow you to get the spirit barn, and the spirit barn will let you have more than 3 spirits. Tip number 7. If you want to complete Zed's quest easy, go to the Spring Temple. You will always have a guaranteed level 5 long log. It can be a double battle, but I've only seen that once, so I think it's pretty rare. Tip number 8. Before you have your spirit barn and you catch a 4th spirit, you will be forced to let it go, so be careful with early game taming. Tip number 9. I highly recommend making one of those first 3 spirits a mumbleweed. Being able to get card draw while dizzying enemies is probably the most broken ability I've found with my time in the game. Tip number 10. While on the topic of recommendations, Marsha's the most broken spirit in the game. Poison's really strong, and Marsha's ability makes stacking up that poison way easier, allowing you to absolutely melt high health enemies. Tip number 11. If you have your balloon equipped and you walk off the edge in a dungeon, the balloon will automatically activate, meaning you don't have to press Q to activate your balloon. Tip number 12. When picking a talisman, never take the one that adds cards to your deck. You are forced to take one of the cards, leading to a bloated deck full of bad cards. Tip number 13. I'd recommend taking the Cleanse Talisman early on, because having a smaller deck makes it way more consistent, and with limited energy, you'd always rather spend that energy on only the cream of the crop cards. Tip 14. Water crops don't need to be watered, so feel free to throw a bunch of them down and you'll always have healing items. I also recommend cattails. They don't need to be replanted, so they're a great stamina regeneration option all spring. Tip 15. Spirits get stronger and stronger the further you get from the main island, so if the encounters are too tough, just make your way closer to the main island. Tip number 16. You don't need to have spirits following you in order to participate in battle, which is super nice because these guys love to get in the way while you're farming. Tip 17. Fishhooks are not automatically equipped by having them in your inventory. You need to right-click to equip them. Tip 18. The skill Ando Acolyte on the Archaeology tab doubles the stamina gained from Ando trees, and it's not retroactively applied. So if you want to min-max your stamina, do not take Ando trees until you have this ability. Tip 19. Another skill I recommend rushing is the Moonstone Minded on the Foraging tab. Chests are a finite resource in this game, and you want as many chances for extra moonstone as you can get. Tip 20. Charms can be crafted in the anvil that allow you to completely resist environmental hazards. The recipe for the anvil comes from Farah after her 2nd quest. Tip 21. You're not punished that much for failing to ask someone on a date, so if you see your special someone, shoot your shot. You won't be punished that badly. Tip number 23. Some vendors will buy certain items for more than others, so make sure you sell ores and ingots to Farah, fish to Tobin, seeds in the conservatory, and spirit resources to Zed for 150% more money than the sell box. Tip number 24. Most town members head to the tavern on Friday nights, so if you're looking to get all of your interactions done in one day, make sure you swing by. Tip number 25. When you're launching the game, make sure to check the Steam announcements. Time-limited events are always announced there, like the free holo hunting potions for the Halloween event we had a couple days ago. Tip number 26. You can press shift to run. I made this tip number 26 because I didn't realize this till day 26. Please don't be like me and make sure you're running. Tip number 27. Some spirits are egg only, but if you release one into the wild, they'll begin to spawn in the wild, making them now renewable in a new way. And finally, tip number 28. Do you have an annoying mine in front of your house? Well, as of late October, we can now close mines that we've gotten everything out of. And there you have it, 28 tips for your first 28 days in Moonstone Island. If you enjoyed this video, I've got a whole bunch more Moonstone Island videos on the channel, so consider subscribing, liking the video, and checking out the channel. I had a lot of fun making this, so take care. Bye-bye.